What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about Dragon Age the Veilguard and some customization options that were revealed today, I believe through Game Informer, who by the way, is just kind of doing everything. I mean, obviously, I know EA and I guess BioWare, along with them, have some sort of partnership, but all the details that we're getting since they showed off the game have all been through multiple kind of Game Informers, expose type things. This stuff is interesting because I really think this is customization in terms of the difficulty settings, in terms of really customizing that experience to how you want to play, that we've maybe not seen before. And I've seen a little kind of pushback to it. I'll explain kind of where I feel in a second once we go over the news. So I'm going to take it from Push Square. There was a couple other people kind of on the side that broke it down as well, but they say that Dragon Age the Veilguard will feature a full suite of customization difficulty options. A new Game Informer article reveals that alongside your typical pre-made settings, Storyteller, Adventurer, and Nightmare, and those just go in order, Storyteller being the easiest and Nightmare being the hardest, you'll be able to adjust individual values in order to create your own custom difficulty. You can tweak fundamental stuff like incoming and outgoing damage, along with how aggressive enemies are in general. On top of that, you can rebalance the more skill-based elements, which is obviously a big deal given how action-focused the Veilguard's combat system is. Aim assist can be altered, complete with what sounds like a total auto-aim toggle, and parry windows can be shortened or extended to suit your needs. And last but not least, there's an option to turn off death, which might raise a few eyebrows, they say, and they say the Veilguard is clearly trying to provide options for any and every type of player. None of these options are a cheat, which the director says to Game Informer. The no death one is an option to make sure players of all abilities can show up. And, again, we've seen some of the breakdown to it, because of the Elden Ring stuff, and this is actually very timely. It's very, I think, important to bring up the Elden Ring stuff, right? There was that interview with Miyazaki, right? And he talks, and he brought up and it is an age-old line. It's a line that I do believe in. The whole idea that if you're making a game for everybody, and I don't even think he's the one who said it specifically. He was talking about difficulty, right? But the line kind of came up. If you make a game for everybody, you're in essence making a game for no one, right? Because if you open it up way too much, you're really not making a game for any specific person, and you kind of lost the point. I will say, I generally agree with that. I think it was a wise thing to bring up when talking about Elden Ring's DLC. I will say, I feel like it kind of depends. And it's really a more case-by-case example. Maybe you could say generally, and you might get me to, say that's true. But I will say, for me, it kind of depends on what is the greatest strengths of these games. Now, you could argue Dragon Age is already having such a controversy with the continued leaving, of what made it special back in the day. And you could say that with any element that you want, but one primary one, let's quiz you, right? What is one primary one? It's the gameplay. Now, there's people that kind of go back and forth, and even I've said it, right? Where it's like, I get it. People are mad that it's changed so much from the first game. That was 2009, 15 years ago. I think there's a balance there where it's like you are trying to attract new people. At the same time, you have to measure that and say, am I going to lose everybody that started? If you lose everybody that starts and you replace them with newer players, but you don't even have the same number, you lost more people than you gained, it's not actually worth it, is it? Right? So, those are things I'm very aware of. I try to be respectful of, but I try to see, kind of both sides to it. Point being, you've seen a lot of debate on the combat specifically. Now, I've said from what we saw of the gameplay, it's early. I need to see more about controlling your allies, right? That was a big thing, a lot of people, because in the beginning of the game, as they showed, you're not going to have control. The enemies do not focus on them. They only focus on you. You focus on the enemies, and that's kind of it. So there is a lot more that needs to be shown and proven. They have a lot to do there. So, keep all that stuff in mind, right? But I thought the combat was fine. I think it can be fun. Honestly, I think it's too early to tell when you're going to spend 60 hours in this game and we've seen 20 minutes. I just feel, honestly, I can't give a full-on opinion with the, amount of time that we've gotten. Now, what does all this have to do with what we just read? Considering the way I think of Dragon Age primarily, at least right now, is the story, the characters, the setting, the atmosphere, things like that. I really think that's very important. Gameplay is important. Gameplay tends to be, at least for most games, tends to be king, right? But right now for Dragon Age, it's like, well, the gameplay's maybe, probably, whatever, gonna be fine. To me, it's more about that other stuff. That really is such a big question mark, and it's not guaranteed it's gonna be good. That's where my focus is. So when I hear this difficulty stuff, it's, honestly, it's like I don't really care. I do think, actually, to a degree, it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool that you're able to change, like, the parrying window. It's like, oh, I mean, do I need that in an Elden Ring? No, heavens, no, right? And I really think that's a case-by-case example where is the joy of playing Dragon Age the Veilguard. Now, we don't know this yet. Is the joy of playing this game nailing that perfect parry, nailing that perfect dodge, nailing, whatever those other examples of things you can kind of tweak, the auto aim and stuff, right? Is that what's so special about this game? And I'm not saying it, it doesn't have to be or whatever. Is that what's special about it? Honestly, no. It probably is not going to be. And in that way, the idea that you're opening it up so that you can have your way with it. You can play it on default difficulties. And, and here's another thing I will throw in. This is a good time to do it. Another big caveat with this entire discussion that I'm having, care needs to be put into everything. And that's easier said than, it sounds so easy, but hopefully, that's addressed the right way. That means that all of these things have to have the care put in. So if I'm playing on normal difficulty, it needs to have a sense of challenge, but also needs to have a sense of being balanced. And the gameplay still needs to work. It still needs to be fun. It still needs to be rewarding in that RPG system. If you're playing on Nightmare, same thing. It actually needs to be more difficult. It's going to rely more on how you balance your allies, how you grow your allies with their abilities. And see what I'm saying? I believe that's very important for this game. No matter how much you can adjust, the toggle, settings and stuff, I think when it comes down to it, the care just needs to be put everywhere. You can open the difficulty up as much as you want or close it with all these customization things. If it makes the game pointless to play, if it is a cheat, they say it's not a cheat, but say it is a cheat where it just feels stale. It just feels like there's nothing there because you open it up too much. That's their choice to give you the option. It's then their fault. That's how I would look at it, right? Again, and that is where it would circle back to the whole you make a game for everybody, you're really making a game for no one. That's, I guess, what I'm getting at. It doesn't have to be that way. I think that if they're focusing on all three difficulties, making it a balanced experience, the combat's good, then it can be that. And you can, to get new people, maybe they want the parry window open more, they can do it. As long as it still works, as long as the gameplay still works and can still be rewarding. Now, maybe that breaks the whole system. I tend to believe it probably wouldn't because, again, that's the difference between Dragon Age and Elden Ring. You cannot go into Elden Ring and change those parameters with those smaller things and the settings. You can't do it with Elden Ring. You're going to break the game. As he said, that's literally what he said. You'd break our game if you did that. So that's what I do think is the difference between the two. And I also think that's where the focus is. The focus on Elden Ring is on the gameplay. The focus on Dragon Age, and you could argue for better or worse. For better or worse, the gameplay has become less and less the focus, and maybe for you that's worse, for some people it's better, maybe it doesn't matter as much. So for right now, I'm fine with it. We have a lot more they have to prove. It's really just a prove it situation. That's really been my thing, I think, very consistently, very honestly, that I've said with this game since they showed it. I think it looks fine, sometimes better than others, sometimes worse. This game has the potential to be a true Game of the Year contender if the cast lands and the story and the choices and the visuals. It stands a chance of being one of the better games this year. Also could literally destroy BioWare. I'm not kidding. That's not an exaggeration. This game could go either way, be a really great game, redeem them, or literally sink them, bankrupt them. They have to sell, whatever. They don't even make Mass Effect. I think it could do either of those, and it's totally on them. So we'll see how it goes, but you guys let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on. I hope to see you all on the next one.